Hey, so this is going to be my first dedicated Nietzsche interpretation video. This is more interpretation with some criticism, but I'm not going over anything that's easy to criticize right now because it's more his mythology. I figure it's actually almost best to just jump right into the Zarathustra for just a little bit with you can watch a lecture somewhere else on it too that'll be more detailed. But I want to talk about what Zarathustra meant to me and go through some readings. So, this is a very, very, very famous passage, one of the most central passages to Nietzschean philosophy. And you have to start at the beginning. If you remember in my intro video, I said, "What did the woman whisper to Zarathustra?" So we'll start the story from the top at least. And this is basically, he's talking to Wisdom, a woman named Wisdom. And if you listen to Nietzsche in an earlier chapter of this, he says that in marriage, one shouldn't look for a partner who's best for reproduction. They should instead look for a partner who enriches them and that they can enrich their partner too. And so he says that's why Zarathustra believes that you can only marry wisdom because it's the only thing that'll make you wiser. It's kind of a bit incelly, but that's Nietzsche. So it's kind of like no philosopher can have a wife. That's why I think it was Hegel who he didn't think was a philosopher, because you're supposed to be married to wisdom, just like priests are married to their church. And with that, let's go. Into thine eyes gazed I lately, O life. Gold saw I gleam in thy night's eyes. My heart stood still with delight. As you can see, it's much like poetry. So you can kind of just to understand the poetry aspects, you have to read a lot of Nietzsche. So if it's someone who's not really super interested in him, but just want to know what his philosophy meant, I would kind of just almost, here we go. I dance after thee. He's speaking to, I think life. He's praying to life, which is another woman. You have to think of it as something that you can love, but that is dangerous still, or like almost like a snake that might bite, is what he's trying to say, I think. So here are caves and thickets of basically, you can think moral ones. We shall go astray. Halt, stand still. Seest thou not owls and bats in fluttering fray? Thou bat, thou owl, thou wouldst play me foul. Where are we? From the dogs hast thou learned thus to bark and howl. So, you can tell that it takes some interpretation. Whereas down below, it's a lot easier, here we go. Thou art so very weary. I carry thee thither. Let me just shine thine arm sink. And art thou thirsty? I should have something, but thy mouth would not like it to drink. Oh, that cursed, nimble, supple serpent and lurking witch, where art thou gone? But in my face do I feel through thy hand two spots and red blotches itch. I am very wary of it, ever thy sheepest shepherd to be. Thou witch, if I have hitherto sung unto thee, now shalt thou cry unto me. So he's saying that he's always been he's experienced so much pain upon because of life that it's like, to the rhythm of my whip shalt thou dance and cry. I forget not my whip, not I. So he's basically going to whip life into shape. So you know what? You're so full of bullshit. Why don't I get to make you cry for once? And it's personifying, When I think of it, the way I think of it, I usually paraphrase things in terms of science, at least a little bit. So life is anti-entropic, which means that it's always going to be a struggle against an inevitable fate. And he's kind of like, you freaking did this, and I'm sick of it, and I'm tired of all this crap. I'm going to whip your ass. But, it's not something you can whip. Then did life answer me thus, and kept thereby her fine ears closed. Now we're getting really into it, guys. O Zarathustra, crack not so terribly with thy whip. Thou knowest surely that noise killeth thought, and just now there came to me such delicate thoughts. Don't be so emotional. Listen to this shit. That's what she's saying, I feel like. We are both of us genuine, never do wells and never do ills. Beyond good and evil found we our island and our green meadow, we two alone. Therefore must we be friendly to each other. Beyond good and evil means that your God is just there. It's like the fundamental force. The fundamental force is beyond good and evil. It just doesn't care about you. It doesn't hurt you on purpose. It doesn't help you on purpose. It's just there. And it just lives according to its will if it's personified. And even should we not love each other from the bottom of our hearts, shouldn't you love life? Must we then have a grudge against each other if we do not love each other perfectly? What's your grudge against life? This is what Christians talk about all the time, how you only dislike life because of crap that happened. Why did God do this to me? And so basically she's saying that you shouldn't hold a grudge like that against life because it's hurt you. You have to look at it right now and live in the moment. At least a little. And that I am friendly to you, and often too friendly, that knowest thou. And the reason is that I am envious of thy wisdom. This mad old fool, wisdom, once again personified. If thy wisdom should one day run away from you, then would also my love run away from thee quickly. So the idea is that this life personified, it has all kinds of things. It's got dogs, it's got coral, it's got everything, but it doesn't have wisdom. And so it wants wisdom. It values Zarathustra for his wisdom, because only humans and other things can have that. And that's why life is almost too friendly to him and doesn't whip him into shape with some accident or something, presumably. I don't know. So, thereupon did life look thoughtfully behind and around, and said softly, O Zarathustra, thou art not faithful enough to me. That's self-harm, suicide attempts, drug use, despair, wallowing, not living fully. Thou lovest me not nearly so much as you say. I know thou thinkest of soon leaving me. I know you're thinking of suicide. There is an old heavy, heavy booming clock. It boometh by night and up to thy cave. When you hearest this clock strike the hours at midnight, then thinkest thou between 1 and 12 thereon. Count the 12. Thou thinkest thereon, O Zarathustra. When you hear the clouds at midnight, just think, I know it, of soon leaving me. Think about why you want to commit suicide and ringing to the bells. Yea, answered I hesitatingly. This is Zarathustra now. But thou knowest it also. And I said something into her ear, in amongst her confused, yellow, foolish tresses. So it's actually Zarathustra whispering into her ear. So Zarathustra says, I know that you're thinking of suicide. And then he says, but you know one other thing. And he whispers to her, and she says, thou knowest that, O Zarathustra. That knoweth no one. And we gazed at each other and looked at the green meadow over which the cool evening was just passing. And we wept together. He's crying with life. Then, however, was life dearer unto me than all my wisdom had ever been. And so he's not suicidal anymore because of the mourning. And most people think that Nietzsche was whispering to her the eternal return, which is basically that you have to live your life over and over again, just that we live again sometime somewhere in another universe or whatever, over and over and over, infinitely. And it's funny because it's like that knoweth no one. And it's like, well, they're starting to talk about maybe an infinite universe, which means that every possible combination of atoms would have to come about. So eventually, and so it's like, yeah, well, actually maybe, but it's more the embracing of your life. So this is the most famous passage. I think this is the only passage that I really have to read to understand, to remind myself of Nietzsche. Like I said, I haven't read him in 8 years. I read this. So he goes to the ringing of the bells. O man, take heed. What saith deep midnight's voice indeed? The darkness, the pain, the misery. I slept my sleep. From deepest dream I've woke and pled. I would say, you can interpret that sort of as like slept my sleep, just nihilism, drug use, despair. And then he's woken up from that, and he pleads. The world is deep. Deeper than materialism, deeper than anything we can directly observe, right? And deeper than the day could read. That's what it means. When you're in the limelight, when you got your microscope, you still can't see how deep the world is. And then it's like, deep is its woe. So there's despair that we can never escape no matter how much we know. Joy, deeper still than grief can be. So, yeah, woe sucks. But what about joy? It's even farther, it's even deeper. It's even deeper than sadness. So joy outweighs sadness, or at least it can if you embrace it. And then woe says, hence, go. Woe tells you to commit suicide. And then this is what used to make me cry every time I read it. But joys all want eternity. Want deep, profound eternity. When we're woeful, we want it to end, but when we're joyful, we want it to go on forever, but it can't go on forever. So there you go. Now we're ready to go for the Ballad to Eternity, but it's really long. But I'll just talk about the chorus. If you want to read this, it's free. Gutenberg.org. Just check it out. But the chorus, basically the chorus of this song is, never yet have I found the woman by whom I should like to have children, unless it be this woman who I love. For I love thee, O eternity. He's decided to embrace the good parts of his life, and he's okay with the fact that it's lived infinitely. And he was never, that's a transformation. He used to be upset that he was born. Wish he had never been born, and now he wishes that he would never die. Never yet have I found the woman by whom I should like to have children. I'll say it how I remember it. Never have I found the woman by whom I would want children, unless it be this woman who I love. For I love thee, O eternity. There you go, Zarathustra. Now you know Nietzsche's kind of like mythology. I want to go into the Festival of the Ass as well. I'll do part 2 with the Festival of the Ass, the Festival of the Donkey. I say ass instead of donkey because it kind of carries the meaning of like absurdity and jackassery. And that's their god. So yeah, I'll go to that in part 2.